Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. The ThunderCast is available and anywhere you can listen to a podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and even, yes, the video episodes are on YouTube. And I would recommend you download the YouTube app so you can listen on the go or watch on the go. The ThunderCast are your Marshall reps and the College Huddle. Yes, the collegehuddle.com. It is the largest fan-driven podcasting network in the country, and we are happy to be a part of them. Russ, it is a big game on tap this week. Marshall has to keep the winning ways going in hopes of staying alive in the SBC championship race. It is a tight one. We need a little help, but it all for naught if we don't keep winning. This week, it is one of my favorite teams to have in a conference on the slate. It's Southern Miss, man. I don't know what it is about Southern Miss, but I've always liked playing them. We played them for a long time in the Conference USA. I'm going to talk about all that here in a little bit. And now we're both in the Sun Belt, both happy to be in the Sun Belt, and it's really great to be able to have them back on the schedule again. So before I get into this synopsis, what do you like, don't like about Southern Miss, man?
I love just about everything about them. I feel like this is a program that deserves to be a perennial winner because they have such an amazing history of doing that. And it seems like they were one of the original teams that were poised to go here, and then they got left behind. But I am going to the game. And this has been a bucket list for me. And a lot of it is people have always said, you want tailgating, go to Hattiesburg. Mm-hmm. And I've always wanted to go. And if I don't go this game, it might be anywhere between 4 to 8 years before we're down there again. Yeah. And a lot can change in 4 to 8 years, with conferences, but also personally and everything. Yeah. So I am going to the game, and I could not be happier to be able to go down there. I'm looking forward to it so much. But, yeah, Southern Miss is one of those. I am so happy that they, came over from Conference USA to go to the Sun Belt. I feel like they belong in the Sun Belt West.
Yeah.
I feel like we belong in the Sun Belt East. I'm glad that we came over together. And they're just fun to root for. I like just about everything about them.
You know what? Outside of Marshall being like an unbelievably good fit for the SBC East, Southern Miss is a way better fit in this SBC West. Geographically, competitively, like the things that they love. Baseball is huge in Hattiesburg, and it is so huge in the SBC West. Texas State and Louisiana, and I mean they just fit right freaking in there, man. And I'm glad to have them back on the schedule. So to that end, let me get right into all the things before I start repeating myself. All right. It's Southern Miss, and they're down this year in a big way, and you just hate to see it. I really don't have anything against them. I like to kind of root for them, except for when we play them. But they are 1-7 this year, 0-5 in conference. They fired their coach a couple of weeks ago, and this is a totally different situation than what we are in when people were sitting there clamoring for firing our coach after the Georgia Southern game. Here we are talking about Marshall being in the thick of the race for the SBC East. Poor Southern Miss has won one game on the season, and it was an FCS team that they beat. Mm-hmm. This has not been a good year for them. But our game going down Saturday, November 9th at 3 p.m. on ESPN Plus for those not making the trip to Hattiesburg. This is the 15th all-time meeting between the Herd and the Eagles. They own a 8-6 all-time edge against the Herd. They have won the last 3 in a row, by the way. But before that, Marshall won the previous 5 in a row. So this is very much a series of streaks, at least recently. We won our 5 in a row between 2011 and 2015. They got their first one in the Herd's terrible 3-win season of 2016, and then they won the next 3. We have not played since 2018, so it's really great to have them back on the schedule. Now, about Hattiesburg. Marshall hasn't won in Hattiesburg since that magical Herd season of 2014, the great team that we honored a couple of weeks ago back at the Joan for their 10th anniversary of their conference championship. So, hey, a great time to go down to Hattiesburg and get another win. You haven't been there and won in a decade. Let's do it this year. I don't think it'll be in the same fashion, but boy, wouldn't it be nice, because in 2014, Russ, that was a 63-17 straight up ass kicking. I don't know that we'll see that again this year, but I wouldn't mind it. I'm just saying. They were with us in the Conference USA. Obviously, we've talked about it now, basically reuniting again for the first time in this SBC era. There's just a lot to love about Southern Miss. I like the way their stadium looks. I think Marshall could mimic a lot of the things that they do to cater to the fan experience and things of that nature. But it's just a good game to have on the schedule. ESPN Power Index, right, loves the freaking Herd in an away game. 81.8% chance to win for Marshall, opening -14 with an over-under of 55.5. So it looks kind of like Vegas wants it to be in that 35-20, 35-21 type deal. I'll take that. I think you would take that.
I'll take that.
Any initial words before I present you with my 3 big questions?
Yeah, because I feel like some of the things that I can mention right here will lead into these questions, and you'll see why KD's asking these questions that I have no idea what they are, plus why each of us are going to have the keys to victory that we do. These are extremely quick hitters. Southern Miss is giving up 33.9 points per game. That is 117th in the nation. They are scoring 17.9 points per game. That is 127th in the nation. If everyone's scoring at home, there's 133 teams when we're talking about these stats. They've not had a 100-yard rusher in any game so far. 303.6 yards per game is 125th, and it's tied with ULM. 416 total defense. That's 110th in the nation. Giving up 30 sacks on the year, 3.75 per game, 131st. They've allowed 10 interceptions. That's tied for 108th. They're 131st on third down conversions at 26.4. Wow. Passing 195.4 a game, 98th. That's the first thing we've talked about where they've been on the positive side of 100. Rushing 108.2 per game, 117th. Red zone offense, 121st, 17 out of 23, 73.9%. They've got 11 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns, and 3 field goals to make up that 17 out of 23. And you think, well, maybe they're better at red zone defense. Worse. Red zone defense, 123rd. 31 out of 33, 93.9% of the time they're allowing points when someone gets into the red zone. 11 rushing touchdowns, 12 passing touchdowns, 8 field goals. Only 2 more things to go over here. Rushing defense, 128th, giving up 225.8 yards per game. And finally, I've got an extremely good stat for them. They are ranked 32nd in the nation, only giving up 190.2 yards through the air. So everything points toward they are having a very rough year, which their record reflects, but they do a really good job defending the pass.
So, okay, first things first. That was not what I was expecting you to do when I asked if you had any initial thoughts, because
that's my initial thoughts.
Yeah, but that's like every statistic that I talk about when we're doing players to look out for and things like that. But damn, that was a lot. I don't think anybody's going to be able to keep all. I couldn't keep all those straight. That was a lot.
Here's all you need to know.
That was a lot.
Very, very, very bad. Very close to worst in the country.
Yeah, they are very bad in a lot of categories, and that's unfortunate, right? Because they're a proud program that's won a lot of football games, and you hate to see that kind of thing, So I hope that they can get their rebuild going next week, not this week. Let's get them going on the right track next week. But my 3 big questions to you are kind of some can lead into that, but maybe not really. My number one big question for you is, can Charles Huff finally win on the road for the first time since September 9th of 2023 against East Carolina, and win an SBC road game for the first time since November 19th, 2022 at Georgia Southern? It has been brutal on the road for Coach Huff.
Yeah. Well, the answer is we better. You know, when you're going up, not only with what you just said with those streaks, but you're going over what I just listed here and how the matchup. I mean, everyone that's not in FCS looks favorable as a matchup versus Southern Miss right now.
Mm-hmm.
It almost doesn't matter that it's on the road because it's been so bad, because everybody that they've played at home, except for their FCS game this year, has come down and beat them, and a lot of them soundly.
Mm-hmm.
So we better win this game.
But look, they're playing with an interim head coach. They've played a little stronger. They played James Madison pretty tough, relatively speaking, to what their schedule has said. You know, but still, you don't just go into the Rock and expect to win. That's the thing, right? Because it's a tough place to play. Now, they're 1-7. How many fans are going to turn out? How fickle is their fan base? How absolutely tough is that environment going to be for the Herd? I don't know that it's going to be as tough as you would otherwise expect if they were even a 4-win team, or you know what I mean? But
yeah,
it's just a bad year for them. And you're right. We better go down and win, because at the end of the day, we have business to take care of, man.
Right.
We have to win. It's not about being on the road. It's not about, this streak here and that streak there. I mean, look, they can put up some points at times, but they give up a lot of points, man. They really do. And they've let some games slip away. But James Madison went down there just last week, and it was 32-15. That's pretty respectable, given that you're a 1-win team, and James Madison is also kind of in the thick of it and has won a lot of football games since they've come up to the Sun Belt.
Yeah, not only that, but, I watched a lot of that game last weekend since we were off. And let's see, 17-9 at half. I think it got to maybe 17-15. Very, very close. Then James Madison scored the last 15 points to pull away. So it was a lot closer, especially in the first half before James Madison kind of turned it on. But it's just one of those things. To ultimately answer your question, yes, we can go down there and win, and Coach Huff can get that monkey off his back. At this point, it's almost a gorilla on his back.
It is.
But the we better is not just about that, but it's about the conference championship. We have to win every single game. So none of the past matters except for this one game right now that we're playing is a must win.
Yeah, I agree. Number two big question for me is, can A.J. Turner get his groove back? Because we don't know his status for this game. And even if he does dress and play, will he be healthy enough of a go to be able to have a typical A.J. Turner type game against a terrible rush defense?
This is a game you'd want to have him back. Of course, ULM, you thought he was going to go off in that game too, and he really didn't. He had, I think the longest run was 12 yards. But we gave him the rock 10 times at least by halftime. He had 10 carries. So it wasn't one of those situations where, he was doing okay, but he only had 5 touches. Before he got dinged up, he did not have that amazing breakout game we were hoping that he might have. So I'm really hoping he'll be available, because this would be the game with their struggles against the run. But not knowing his status, I'm just going to assume that he won't play.
Oh, I can't. Oh, I don't want to hear that. Ooh, I don't even want to think that. I want to think it was a minor ding.
And it could be.
And they were like, you know what? And Payne's doing well. Houston's doing well. There's no need to put AJ back in there and risk further injury. That's what my gut wants to hear, obviously.
Well, and anybody that's listening or watching this, I have absolutely no idea. I'm just saying, until I hear he left the game. He didn't come back in until I'm hearing. I'm going to assume, for the purposes of this episode with my answers, that he doesn't play. Hoping like hell, and as we record this is so way early in the week. Yeah. Once you hear Coach Huff's press conference, which is way after this when we're doing it, he may say, oh, he's got a green light and he'll be just fine, and then you'll just have to disregard. But late Sunday night, as we're recording this, I'm just going to assume, because the game was yesterday and we haven't heard anything, that, I'm going to give my answers based on him not playing.
Yeah. Final question of the big three. Will the Herds run defense show up for 4 entire quarters? They got gashed big time against ULM, but it was by a stud running back, and Southern Miss does not have anybody that is tearing it up to the degree that Hardy is for ULM, but still, we need 4 consistent quarters of run defense. Can the Herd get it done this week?
I have to say that we've been very close to the bottom in rush defense. I think we're still 123rd out of 133, and we have got to do better, especially the rest of this season with every single game mattering so much. We have got to. I feel like this would be that game. When you look at it, they haven't had a 100-yard rusher in any game so far. Their lead rusher has, you've probably got it in front of you, 300 and something. But it's not much in 8 games. Less than 40 a game, or right at 40 a game, I think that he's averaging. I think they finally do. And I feel like this is that game where we can finally say we put together 4 quarters.
Yeah, and it's got to be that way. You can't show up to this one like sort of like ULM and be like, we'll see what we got here. No, you have to go in and assert yourself from the word go, show why you are in the thick of a conference divisional race, why you are way better than a 1-win team, no matter how proud of a program they are and no matter how well we would like to see them do well. We're a better team this year. And you have to prove that. You don't just leave some question marks out there and let these guys gain confidence. It's like, hey, man, we're hanging with the Herd. We can do this at home and get one. And like, hell no, you can't have that. And you mentioned their leading 2 rushers. Yeah, they've got a combined, 620 some yards. A.J. Turner has 770 yards.
Yeah.
And that doesn't count Jordan Hughes, and that doesn't count Ethan Payne. So let me move into some of these players to look out for, and we'll talk about some of this stuff. So starts with quarterback Ethan Crawford. He's been starting the last couple of games. He did not start the season. They had Florida State transfer quarterback Tate Rodemaker, who started the season but was, not doing what they wanted him to do. Maybe he got dinged up, maybe a little of both. But anyway, you slice it, it's Ethan Crawford now, 6 foot 215. He's a sophomore, 42 out of 97 on the season, 772 yards. Has not thrown a touchdown pass yet. 4 interceptions on the season, and boy, oh boy, is he susceptible to the sack. Holy moly, 18 times he's been sacked this year, 15 in the last 2 weeks, freaking 9 against James Madison last week. Holy hell. 76 carries for Crawford on the season, 210 yards, should be more. Of course, 18 sacks is going to do that to you. And then 3 touchdowns on the ground. He's got a long of 21. A couple of running backs we'll mention. Rodriguez Clark, running back, 5'10", 200. He's a senior. 81 carries leads the team. 341 yards leads the team, but just 1 touchdown on the ground. And then you've got running back Kenyon Clay, 6'1", 220. He's a sophomore. 46 carries on the season for 281 yards, 6.2 yards per carry, but he's got 6 touchdowns on the ground. So that looks to be more of their short yardage type guy who gets it when in the red zone. 8 receptions for 127 yards for Mr. Clay and 1 touchdown through the air. We'll mention a couple of wide receivers because, hey, why not? Larry Simmons, 6'1", 190-pound sophomore, 18 receptions for 307 yards, leads the team. No touchdowns with a long of 49 yards. Tequelin Mims, 5'9", 175. He's a junior, leads the team with 22 receptions for 245 yards. no touchdowns through the air and a long of 56. I don't know how you have basically two 50-yard pass plays that do not go for touchdown, but whatever. And you mentioned all the stats, right? They're scoring just under 18 points a game. That is horrible. 127th, 303 yards per game, 125th in the country. That's horrible. The 98th pass offense, 117th rush offense. Their offense is just bad. The stats say that. It's not opinion. The stats say that. And this far into the season, you are who you are. And you're not very good on offense. It's probably why they're 1-7. They know it. We're not rubbing salt in the wound. It is what it is. I'm not up here pounding my chest and trying to beat them down. It's like, man, you just don't expect a Southern Miss team to be there.
Well, but people watching and listening may not know. We are in a kind of a Sunbelt Conference Twitter group, DM group, and there's quite a few Southern Miss fans in there. They are saying a lot worse than what we're saying right now. Mm-hmm. They are saying things like "we suck," "we're horrible this year."
Which I won't say that.
We'll never ever say that. We are looking at them. They're saying these things emotionally because these things are. Even though we don't say that when we're emotional, they are just really, really, really having such a bad year that it is upsettingly bad how bad they are, that their fan base, you mentioned it, a proud history.
Yeah.
Perennial, winning, they won all kinds of conference championships when they were in Conference USA. And if you go back even further than that, they've got 2 national championships kind of unofficially in football.
So let me talk to you about how the Herd defense stacks up against these numbers. In this ComAssist KY Marshall football preview, by the way, ComAssistKY.com, we coach, you grow. The Herd defense stacks up pretty well against a lot of these categories for Southern Miss. I mentioned they are sub 120 in 2 categories, 117th in another, and 98th in pass offense. So they're not very good. But Marshall is 100th in total defense. Not that great when you think about it. Marshall's allowing 398 yards a game. This Southern Miss offense, like I said, is only gaining 303. But Marshall is 79th in scoring defense, only allowing 25 and almost 26 points per game. So, okay, the pass defense is actually decent, 55th in the country, but the rush defense is what's scaring me. You thought we were still around that 120 mark. We're actually up to 111, which is not anything to be awesomely happy about. Still allowing 188 yards per game. That 200-yard day by Hardy last week really just did not help things, obviously. But the Herds defense stacks up better against this Southern Miss offense. They're not that great. They're not that explosive. Marshall can play decent enough offense to hold more than their own, and they should have their way. Defensively, for Southern Miss, it's a couple of linebackers and a couple of safeties that we're going to talk about. It's linebacker Trey Pinckney, 6'1", 220-pound senior, 53 total tackles, leads the team, 24 of those solo and a half a sack. Then we talk about linebacker Chris Jones, 6', 220. He's a freshman, 38 total tackles, 21 solo, 1 sack, 1 pass defended, 1 interception, and a forced fumble. Great all-around player as a youngster for the Eagles. And then a safety, Dylan Lawrence, big guy, dude, 6'4", 215. He's a senior, 36 total tackles, 23 of those solo. He has no sacks. He's got 2 picks, including a pick 6. And then safety Jay Jones, 6'1", 210. He's a senior. So you've got 3 out of 4 that are seniors and a freshman. Jones has 35 total tackles, 21 solo, also no sacks, and just 2 passes defended. Impact plays for the Southern Miss defense are a lacking, man. Just 16 total sacks for this team, 4 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries in 8 games. That is it. That has got to sting if you're a Southern Miss fan, because you know they expect more out of these guys. And you mentioned some of these rankings. Total defense, they're giving up 416 yards. That's 110th in the country. They are allowing 33.8 points. That's 117th in the country, like you mentioned. They are good against the pass, like you said. They're allowing 190 yards per game. That's number 32, but guess what? We don't pass very well, so I don't know how that's going to work. Against the run, though, this is the one, 128th in the country, allowing 225.8 yards per game to opponents. Marshall just so happens to be, Russ, the 15th rushing offense in the country, already gaining 212 yards per game against decent defenses that are not ranked 128th in the country. There's your mismatch again, glaringly again. So how does the Herd offense stack up to this defense? Pretty decent. Marshall's 79th in total offense in yards a game, 382. Like I said, they're allowing 416. Marshall's 55th in scoring offense, scoring nearly 30 points per game. They're allowing more than that. It is what it is. Passing, we know what we're going to get. We're going to get $150, maybe a touchdown, maybe two, right? But rushing is where it is. That's the difference yet again for the Herd. A couple of kickers I'm going to talk about. We're going to get into keys. Connor Gibbs, 5'10", 180. He's a sophomore, 6 of 6 on field goals with a long of 54, and 7 of 9 on extra points. Then Andrew Stein, 5'9", 185-pound senior, 0 of 3 on field goals, but 8 of 8 on extra points. So they have used 2 kickers this year, and they've used them quite a bit. Who knows who we'll see and how often we'll see in which situations. Russ, keys to victory. Number one, what is your first biggest key to victory for Marshall this week?
We cannot buy into all these stats that you and I just mentioned and go down there and think they're 1-7. They've only beaten an FCS team. All these things are historically bad this year and close to the bottom in all these different categories. We have got to come out strong and not be flat.
Excellent point. I'm just gonna think that they're not going to listen to this show. They're not going to pay attention to any of the stats, right? The players and coaches, obviously. So my number one key to victory for Marshall in this ComAssist KY Marshall football preview is run the damn ball. Run the damn ball, man. We ought to be able to rack up 300 yards rushing on this team if we choose to. Our offensive line has been doing a pretty good job at opening holes anyway, and now you're playing against a defense that allows a metric shitload of rushing yards. If A.J. Turner is healthy, Katie bar the door. If he's not, I still have a lot of faith in Braylon Braxton's legs and Jordan Houston's legs and Ethan Payne to get us some yardage and maybe do the hard work down low in the red zone and get a couple of more touchdowns on the board. It's run the freaking football. Please run the football. What's your number two key to victory for the Herd?
Finally meet our potential on offense and defense. We've talked about it most of the year of playing full games, 4 quarters, getting, started early, not having a lull in the middle, finishing, not playing 3 quarters and then having a total meltdown in the 4th quarter and not being able to move the ball and the defense goes bad. We need to finally meet our potential to where we've got these weapons on offense. We've got these great players on defense, but just make it a full game. And I think it would do so well for us to go into the final stretch of games that we have to play to finally do that. So I think that is a huge key for us in this game.
I think that's a really good point and one I really didn't think about. Like, put this one together right now, 9th game into the season or whatever, the 8th game into the season, and say, hey, it took us a while, but we put together a complete game to kind of springboard us into this home stretch of games we know we must win. When you're staring down the barrel of James Madison and Old Dominion still on the board, you have to play them. There's no way around it.
And Coastal at home.
And you have to beat them. You have to freaking beat them. All right, so my number two key to victory is constantly pressure the quarterback. Constantly. 15 sacks in the last 2 games, no touchdowns, only 4 touchdowns passing all year by Southern Miss, and all of them were by the now backup quarterback. Man, you got to get to this kid. You got to wear him out, and we've got just the guys to do it. right? I mean, damn, if you were a young quarterback who's not seeing much success, you just got sacked 9 times and you see Mike Green coming to town, that cannot make you feel good as an offensive line coach, as an offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, whatever, because you know what this guy is capable of doing and has done all year long. Not to mention the other guys that can get to that quarterback, the Tyquez Lexus, the Jabari Ishmaels. Even, I mean, this might be another one of those games where JJ needs to play close to the line of scrimmage, right? They have a pretty decent pass offense, but boy, oh boy, you get some pressure. That's all for naught. That is all for naught. What's your number 3 key to victory?
Well, it's the exact same thing, coincidentally. I said unleash the dogs for pressuring the quarterback, and Mike Green, obviously number 1 on that list. You talk about these other teams that have only given up, like when we had played them, 5 sacks in 5 games, and you saw Mike still get to them and live in the backfield, and them having to ULM, it seemed like, was holding him all the time, to try to prevent him from getting back there. Double teams, you've seen all this different stuff. If a team has given up 15 sacks in the last 2 weeks, 30 overall, 3.75 per game coming into this, 130th, if I'm remembering correctly, out of 133 teams as far as giving up sacks. How are they going to all of a sudden control Mike Green? How are they all of a sudden going to focus with a double team on him and somebody else not get through? Their line, it does not seem, is just going to stop underperforming when they're going up a really good pass rush like Mike Green. Again, we said this in the recap episode from last week. 3rd in the nation with 10 sacks. 4th in the nation at 13.5 tackles for losses. Mike Green, he got over a future NFL guy at Ohio State, made him look utterly ridiculous. This is the game where you unleash Mike Green and his wild bunch that's with it.
It doesn't it feel like this has the potential to be that Owen Porter at JMU a few years ago, where we saw Owen have 3.5, it should have been 4.5 in that game, and he just wrecked shop defensively. Yeah. It feels like this has the potential to be that game for Mike Green, that signature performance where it just goes off the charts, and you talk about it like you do the Vinnie Curry game right after his mom passed, and he had all those sacks, and Porter's game at JMU. It's like, this is what it feels like it could be.
Any game in 2004 for, oh man, blanking on the
Goddard.
Yeah, Jonathan Goddard. I mean, he just played out of his mind every single game. I mean, It seems like one of those, and maybe that's a little foreshadowing for something here in a minute.
Yeah. Number 3 for me is something that you alluded to by saying playing a complete game. I'm just saying I think the Herd needs to play a solid 60 minutes, and right through the middle of the game, we've been seeing that's where the 3 and outs occur, and you just kind of go super stale for the better part of a quarter, in possession time. And I just want to see the Herd play 60 minutes. I don't mind a 3 and out, but I don't want to see like 3 of them in a row. You know what I'm saying? I just think we need to see that full 60-minute game. I know you're what you're saying as a complete game to me is different, because I don't necessarily equate that to, the best games we've had in all phases. It's just like I need to see a full quality 60 minutes of football with no big letdowns, and just if you lose the momentum, go get it back. We just saw that against ULM. They score, go ahead, and we immediately get the momentum back by scoring and taking the lead back. So I need to see a full 60 minutes for the Herd. Do you have a 4th key to victory?
I do, and this one, it's again the same as ULM. You start looking at all their problems that they have, but go up and down. Here's receiving, and this is their season long: 49, 56, 47, 34, 59, 29, 37, 30, 42. That's the top 9 receivers that they have, and look at how many chunk plays they have. Some of them more than half the football field. They've only got 4 touchdowns, but we can't do that to let them get down into the red zone, as even though they're bad there at the red zone. we cannot give up those big plays. They hurt us during the ULM game. I don't want to see it hurt us here, so we just cannot give up the big play.
Fair. My number 4 key to victory is what I'm saying is just handle your business. You got to win, go win. That's it. You know you have to win, go win. Go be the better damn team. No, you don't have to be cute about it. You don't have to try to be creative about it. Just line up and win. Win each individual battle and leave Hattiesburg, Mississippi with a win. That's it. Just handle your business. Russ, do you have an MVP that you'd like to mention in this ComAssistKY.com Marshall football preview?
I'm going with Jordan Houston, and it's based on, as of right now, late Sunday night. I've not heard anything about our stud running back, A.J. Turner. If Turner is a full, healthy go, I would pick A.J. Turner. Right now, with it just not been put to bed, no one has said anything officially, and you might hear that and may not when Coach Huff has his press conferences early this week. Right now, I'm going with Jordan Houston. Had an absolute hell of a game against ULM. He's been very solid all year long. He's had some very big sparks on offense and special teams. And I look for him, if he is thrust into this starting role against a bad rush defense, I look for it to be Jordan Houston. Special shout out to somebody that I think might get 3 or more sacks in Mike Green.
Well, unsurprisingly, my defensive MVP pick is, of course, Mike Green. I think he's going to have a huge game. And a lot like you, I'm just choosing the running back room as my offensive MVPs based on the unknown of the status of A.J. Turner, because Houston may garner all the yards or the big bulk of the yards, but may not find the end zone, just like we saw. We might see Ethan Payne doing that. And I think it's going to be a room. It's going to be a by committee thing. You might see Braxton getting the touchdowns on the ground. But if AJ is healthy, I still think it's the running back room, because it's going to take all of them contributing in the ways that they've contributed all year long to move the football and get points on the board. How about a score prediction as we look to wrap up the ComAssist KY Marshall football preview?
I hope this one doesn't come back to bite me, but I'm looking 44-14.
Okay. I like it. I like a convincing win too. I got nothing wrong with that. I'm just going a tad closer. 38-17 is what I like the Herd to do. I would love to see them eclipse the 40-point mark. I think that would be great. I think the offense could use that, especially if it's a situation where AJ's dinged up and is a partial go or a no-go. 40-plus point performance would be pretty freaking awesome. As we wrap it up, you got any final words before we get out of here?
If anyone from Southern Miss is happening to watch or listen to this, I will be coming down there. I'm looking so forward to it, and I have a lot of respect for your program. I hope to experience everything down there, and I feel so horrible that you guys are having a down year. I wish that it was both of our teams, for this one chance that I get to come down there, are playing at their peaks and everything. So please don't take anything that KD and I are saying here on this. We're just going by what the stats are. Mm-hmm. And I really, really look forward to being down there and just immersing myself in your tailgating culture and everything about the Rock and everything about the fan experience. I do hate that it's probably not going to be packed, because I've seen the photos and all that stuff on social media. It's just unfortunate, but coming from us, if you couldn't tell from the start, we're both big fans.
Yeah, we're absolutely 100% not taking pot shots at your team. Yeah. We just have to go off what the stats tell us. We haven't watched every game. You guys may have looked pretty good in some of those games, and it just didn't go your way. Lord knows we've been there a million times. Yep. But all I can say is this. We do want to see you guys rise back up to the SBC West and be competitive in that division. We just don't want to see it this week. Yeah. Next week, have at her, brother. But this week, we want it to be all about the Herd and the Kelly Green and White, because we've got business to handle. We've got a championship to try to win. And unfortunately, you guys just aren't in that situation this year. But other than that, I got nothing else, so you can take us out of here, Russ.
Yeah, so whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the vet, or whether you see us in Hattiesburg tailgating it up, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
It's the Thundercast. We'll see you next week. Later.